everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com and it's time for the season finale of Monday Night Raw. Of course it is. Of course it is. Yes, if you weren't aware, Raw is actually split into several distinct seasons, like The Simpsons, or The Wire, or The Office, or any other regular television show, except this one sort of isn't, is it? Sort of isn't split into... Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, how good was Raw this week and what happened? There's only one way to find out, and that is by looking at each individual segment and assigning each one a lovely individual grade. That's right, it's time for Monday Night Raw Graded. We opened the show with a Seth Rollins promo. Well, no, actually, we opened the show with some spooky Bray Wyatt malfunctions on the opening package, like the opening video package, which is really nice to see. But we opened the proper show, like live in the arena, with a Seth Rollins promo. Seth basically says the point of this promo, or the early stages of this promo at least, is that he's scared of the Fiend. Aww, poor Seth. But he says he's also brave, like a good little baby face, and that he'll, overcome the Fiend when he comes to face him at Hell in a Cell, just like he overcame Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, and just like he overcame Braun Strowman at Clash of Champions, and that brings Braun Strowman to the ring. Strowman hits the ring and says, look Seth, if you've got anything to say to my face, bro. And I don't really think Strowman has a good point here, because Seth did beat him fair and square at Clash of Champions, so why is he annoyed that he said he did? Strowman finishes talking, and then Seth starts to talk, and then Strowman goes, I wasn't finished talking, even though he definitely was finished talking. Wasn't the biggest fan of Braun in this segment, to be honest. Not Braun's fault, just the script was a little bit stupid for him. Rollins says, look, I've really got a lot on my plate right now, but the way you're acting, Braun, makes me want to fight you again tonight. And Strowman goes, challenge accepted, and they set up a match for later on in the evening. I'm going to give this opening segment a B-. I thought, both guys performed it reasonably well. In fact, Strowman's promo ability, I think, has noticeably improved in recent times. The only problem is it set up a match that I'm really not enthusiastic to see at all because it's so soon since we saw it last at Clash of Champions. Next up, the first match of the show, the OC, two Sweetski Broskis versus... Broskis, not Zack Ryder, it's Gallows and Anderson, versus the Viking Raiders, the Viking Raiders. This match has a pretty standard opening until AJ Styles is lurking on the outside and grabs, I think it was Evar's leg on the apron, allowing Gallows to just clock him off the apron with a sick roundhouse kick, dudes.
Why am I so weird today, man?
Luckily, the referee spots this and ejects AJ from the arena. We all love a big referee ejection in professional wrestling, don't we? The crowd all pop for it. And as AJ is heading up the ramp protesting, he gets jumped by Cedric Alexander, who chases him to the back. Quite relieved to see that, actually, to be honest, because I did think that Cedric was booked quite weak on Clash of Champions or on the pre-show, and then on the following Raw as well. So it's nice to see this feud continuing. The rest of the match picks up the pace down the stretch, and the Viking Raiders eventually pick up the victory, hitting Anderson with the Viking Experience, like the actual move, the Viking Experience. And then Eric flies outside of the ring, cutting off Gallows with a nice suicide dive, and allowing Ivar to pick up the pinfall. Kind of like Flash Morgan Webster, actually, and Mark Andrews at NXT TakeOver UK Cardiff. So that's a match that they're obviously setting up for the future. I'm joking, but I really want to see the Viking Experience versus Mandrews and Webster, actually. That'll be a really good match. Overall, this match gets a B. It was a nice, exciting match to start the show, no major complaints, and I'm glad again to see the Cedric and AJ feud continue. Next up, Michael Cole has headed to the back. Why? To have a sit-down interview with the man and the Raw Women's Champion, Becky Lynch. Cole starts off with a really weird question, in my opinion, because he says, Becky, are you quite sure about your decision to have the Hell in a Cell stipulation for your upcoming match against Sasha Banks? And Becky says, yes, I am confident. And I'm like, yeah, of course she is, because we just saw Becky decimate Sasha in a brawl at Clash of Champions. So yeah, that doesn't make any sense, Michael. Becky says she left the SmackDown Women's division the strongest it had ever been, and then she came to Raw and saw it in ruin after Ronda Rousey had cut through everybody, and she wants to restore it to its former glory. That's why she always calls out people at their best, and that's why she wants Sasha Banks in Hell in a Cell at the event. Now, that's a really good point, and it does make sense, but then Becky goes on to accuse Sasha of being cowardly, saying that, during that brawl at Clash of Champions, she was running for the hills, she was looking for the exit, vintage Sasha Banks, she says, because she's with Michael Cole, ha 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 ha, ha ha ha. wasn't that funny, it was alright. This interview segment gets a B. I thought it had slightly mixed messages in there. Yeah, like Becky wanting Sasha at her best, but Becky also saying that Sasha's a coward, or, you know, Cole asking Becky about Sasha being on this hot streak and choosing this dangerous stipulation, when we did just see Becky get the best, get sort of out-brawl Sasha at Clash of Champions. But it does get a B grade because it was performed excellently. It was delivered excellently, as always, by Becky Lynch. One of the best promos in WWE right now. Next up, the clash we've all been waiting for. That's right, it's Rusev versus EC3. This was basically a squash match. Like, EC3 jumped Rusev at the bell. There was a bit of maybe a miscommunication. It was a bit sloppy for a few seconds, but they got it back on track, and Rusev won really, really quickly with the Machka kick and the accolade, forcing EC3 to tap out. And that's the match. There you go. Okay, there are two major problems here, right? One, the continued burial of EC3, but we're used to that by now, I suppose. It's just sad to see. Secondly, as well, I don't understand why there was zero follow-up from last week when Rusev was revealed as supposedly the father of Maria Kanellis' baby. What on earth? What's going on there? Commentary mentioned it, but it didn't play into the match at all. We didn't see Maria or Mike or anyone involved with that storyline last week apart from Rusev. So, what was that, just a one-off? Seems like quite an important thing to be a one-off, really. This gets a D grade. I wasn't a fan of it. Neither the squash itself nor the storyline implications, or lack thereof. Next up, Sasha Banks, accompanied by Bayley, versus Nikki Cross, accompanied by her fellow women's tag team champion, Alexa Bliss. This was quite a long match. It got about a quarter of an hour, which was good at times, but at other times you could sense the crowd's enthusiasm starting to wane. It was a bit up and down, and I think that might have been because it didn't really hit the different gears. It just seemed to be one consistent pace all the way through the match. But that might just be my takeaway from the match. I'm not sure what you thought. But yeah, I can understand why the crowd kind of dipped and rose as this match went on. At one stage, Nikki hit a really nice swinging neck breaker on Sasha Banks, so nice in fact that Bayley was worried that Sasha was going to lose. She hopped up on the apron to distract the referee, but then Alexa Bliss came tearing around the ring to deal out some justice on Bayley, clocking her in the face and whipping her into the timekeeper's area. Nikki then continued asserting herself in the match, headed to the top rope, leapt off with a crossbody, but Sasha nimbly reversed it, quite nicely actually, into a Banks statement and forced Nikki Cross to tap out. Not sure about that. But it wasn't over there, as Sasha Banks, being such a dirty heel, continued the assault on Nikki Cross. This led to Alexa getting involved to try and save her partner, but Sasha quickly neutralized her with a backstabber and a Banks statement, which Alexa didn't tap out for, which has just, I don't necessarily believe the whole rumors of like Sasha and Alexa hate each other backstage, but it did set off like little alarms in my head, like, oh, there's legit heat there. And there's no way of actually telling unless you're a part of the WWE locker room, but it just seemed a bit strange, that's all, that she didn't tap out. This gets a B-. It was a good effort by both wrestlers, but at the same time, I'm really not certain about the decision to have Nikki Cross tap out. I understand that this is main roster Nikki Cross, not NXT Nikki Cross, but still, there has to be some character consistency in there, and Nikki Cross's character really, to me, doesn't match up with the idea of tapping out. I think she'd sooner pass out than tap out, and I know that's reserved for bigger and more dramatic moments and matches, so why not have Sasha beat her, maybe by pinfall, maybe via Bayley or something? I don't know, there were other ways they could have done this, and I don't think you had to have Nikki tap out. Then of course there was the Alexa beatdown, which I understand from one point of view, as in you've got to make Sasha look strong, she's got a big match coming up against Becky Lynch, but on the other hand, you want to kind of keep your women's tag champs looking strong too, and they've effectively been both taken down and basically dominated by one wrestler, but you know, it is what it is. Next up, Lacey Evans. She's got Your Number versus Ember Moon. I really have no idea what the lyrics are to that song. This was a fairly short match, but a nicely competitive one, very back and forth. There were a lot of unique spots as well, such as Ember Moon's stunner from the apron, like when she caught herself with her toes on the bottom rope and then managed to turn it into a stunner on Lacey on the outside. This was decent, you know, they tried some new stuff and it was interesting to watch. But in the end, despite all of Ember's innovation, it wasn't quite enough as Lacey Evans hit the women's right, knocking Ember off the top rope and then clamping on another sharpshooter, again another shot fired at Natalya for the submission victory. This also gets a B-. Yes, it was like 10 minutes shorter than the previous match, but I do think it was still kind of good in its own right. The drawbacks for me were that I just hate seeing Ember Moon being used to build up someone else, when really, in my opinion, she should be the one being built up by other people. At the same time though, it was a decent encounter, and I do think as well, this might just be a nice little run of form, but I do think that Lacey has been improving in recent weeks. Next up, it's the Firefly Funhouse. We're really glad that he's our friend, and this is it's never going to end. Bray is hanging up photos, picture frames in his little Firefly Funhouse den of people that he's beaten up as the Fiend, basically. He adds Kane to the collection, and then he looks down, and Rambling Rabbit and Huskus the Pig, listen to me, man. Listen to what we've all become. We just know these characters now. We know these children's puppet characters. Rambling Rabbit and Huskus the Pig are fighting over a Seth Rollins action figure. Wyatt then gives a lecture on the importance of sharing, and then so they can share it, he snaps the action figure in two. Oh dear. This gets a B+, not the best Firefly Funhouse we've seen, but still strong work from Bray Wyatt, as always. And honestly, I just want the match already. Just give us the match already. I really am looking forward to this one. As long as Bray wins. If Seth wins, I'm not sure how I'll feel about that. Next up, 24/7 Championship shenanigans time. TFCST. Acronyms are fun. R-Truth runs out, followed by Carmella. They get in the ring, and then the undercard follow them. There's a Mojo Rawley sighting. There is a Mojo Rawley sighting. He's okay. He's alive. He's all right. Call off the bloody search. But Carmella stops them from getting in the ring. She grabs a microphone and she pleads with them. She's like, "Look, guys, I can't live like this anymore." And she says to Truth, "I can't do this anymore. I'm really sorry. I can't rest for 1 second of the day. I can't eat. I can't sleep. This is horrible, and I just can't do it anymore." Truth seems to understand. They hug it out, and then Carmella rolls him up and becomes the new 24/7 champion. It's finally happened. Then Renee Young hits the line of the night, saying, "Graves, you can finally consummate the 24/7 title." And Graves says, "Oh, it's too late for that." And I was just like, all right, guys, calm down. And then basically R-Truth forgives Carmella and celebrates with her because he's a nice guy. And I would have liked to have seen R-Truth be all heartbroken and this to start a big feud between the two. But at the same time, it was a very R-Truth thing to do, I guess. For such an inconsistent and nonsensical character as R-Truth, it was shockingly consistent with his prior behaviour. So Truth and Carmella are celebrating. The rest of the 24/7 division just don't know what to do. And then here come several members of the women's locker room to chase Carmella away. Truth helps her out, and it looks like the whole thing's going to start again, but with Carmella as champion instead of Truth. This gets a B. The big swerve happened. It was entertaining. I'm excited to see where it goes, which is why it gets as high a grade as a B, but generally it was okay. The reason that I'm excited is because does this mean that Renee, Drake Maverick's wife, is finally going to win the belt, and then, you know, her and Drake can... Yeah, that's just why I think if Renee pins Carmella, the pop will be absolutely unreal, and I really want that to happen so badly. Next up, a rematch from the King of the Ring final, Baron Corbin, King Corbin, versus the man he defeated in the final, Chad Gable. And you know what, right? Corbin's got his robe and his crown and his scepter, and he's got new ones because Gable trashed the gear last week, and they're all black. And honestly, Corbin looks really cool, alright? I don't know what you thought. I saw some people suggesting he looked silly. I thought he looked really cool. I thought he looked badass. Corbin cuts a heel promo before the match saying, oh, this match is going to be really short, because Chad Gable's short and he's tall. And then just in case we didn't get that joke, even though it was very obvious, he then says, after I win this match, I won't be facing anyone under 5'5". And I was like, did you have to ram the joke home like that emphatically? I got it the first time around. Thanks, Baron. My liege. This match isn't quite as good as the first one, but at the same time it follows a similar pattern, with the crowd really not being interested at the start and then getting fully on board with Chad Gable's comebacks. He really does have a great deal of just natural babyface fire. He's got it and needs to be used more in the future. This is an encouraging start, but I don't want his push to just disappear once this feud with Corbin's ended. I want it to continue, and I want to see him rise up the card. Corbin is able to kick out of a gorgeous moonsault from Chad Gable, but then Gable locks on the ankle lock, and instead of giving up and submitting, Corbin grabs the scepter because it's just in reach and blasts Gable with it, and then just continues to beat him up with it after the match. Unsatisfying ending, but I can see why they did it to avoid the whole 50-50 booking. This gets a B. There were flashes of a great match in here, little moments that would fit in a great match, but overall it wasn't quite as good as the King of the Ring final from last week, and I can see Baron Corbin actually using that scepter as a weapon to screw his way out of matches for a long time coming. Next up, a fatal 5-way elimination match to determine the #1 contender for Seth Rollins' Universal title on next week's season premiere of Monday Night Raw. Season 40, whatever, the next season of Monday Night Raw. It's Rey Mysterio versus Ricochet versus Robert Roode versus AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, on paper, that match is unreal. It's like a Smarky message board's dream match in 2013 or something, but it does find all of these guys in varying states of momentum on the card. It starts off with Ricochet and Rey Mysterio just taking out bad guys left, right and centre like it's a kung fu movie or something, like they're Power Rangers. And they're not quite on the same team, but they're taking out people who are trying to ambush them, and they're sort of fighting back to back. And it's really exciting to watch. Then the heels start to take control and AJ Styles just starts to shine because he's awesome. But eventually it all boils down once again to Rey versus Ricochet. And this time they fight and it's great. They're both a really good matchup with each other, obviously. And it's really exciting to see. That's why it's really surprising to see Ricochet eliminated first, actually. He hits the recoil on Robert Roode, who sells it wonderfully, like The Rock selling a stunner or something. But then Ricochet is blindsided by a big Kinshasa from Nakamura, and that's enough to eliminate him from the match. A little bit later on, Rey is setting up Nakamura. He hits him with the 619. It looks like he has him dead to rights, but then AJ Styles hops up on the apron and just drops Rey Mysterio with a sick brainbuster right on the apron. That was really nasty, but in a good way. Then Styles hits a lovely phenomenal forearm right onto Nakamura over Robert Roode in the process, and that's enough for Styles to eliminate his old foe from New Japan. But then immediately Roode blindside Styles, hits him with the glorious DDT, and we're down to Rey Mysterio versus Robert Roode. And I think it's kind of obvious where this is going, given the fact that we had Rollins versus Roode last week, but that doesn't make it any less of an impressive ending to the match. After a lovely little back and forth with various attempts at either man's finisher, Rey is able to reverse the glorious DDT by kind of sliding between Roode's legs and hoisting him backwards into the 619 position. He hits the 619 and then a lovely frog splash to pick up the victory in what was an excellent match. I loved it from start to finish. This gets an A. I'm really excited for Rollins versus Rey next week, but to be honest, this was an excellent match. I enjoyed the match even more than the prospect of that future match. It was maybe, it was one of my favourite TV matches of the year so far. Nothing like out of this world 5-star unbelievable, but really sensibly booked, really made sense all the way through, and everybody shone. Everyone got a little chance to shine, even Sami Zayn on the outside as Nakamura's manager. No complaints at all. Easy watching, like really easy. Just stick this match on and watch it and have a good time. A is the grade, best thing on the show by a mile. And finally, the main event, Seth Rollins versus Braun Strowman. And it's good, it's good, but there are two things working against it. One, it just came off the back of that really, really fun match beforehand. And two, we've seen it really recently at Clash of Champions. In this one, interestingly, Strowman looks to have the better of Seth at various stages, but when he's got him set up for the running power slam, the lights gradually shut off one by one, and we do get the appearance of The Fiend. Wyatt, or The Fiend, attacks Strowman, and it does, I really like this little touch. It takes two mandible claws to put Strowman down. Rollins doesn't help at all. He's just chilling in the corner. Well, he's not chilling, he's really terrified, but yeah, he doesn't help at all. What a bad friend. I guess him and Strowman aren't friends, to be fair. This gets a B. It's the second week in a row we've ended Raw in a very similar fashion to this, but it was still effective. I like the fact that they took two mandible claws to put Strowman down, and I'm just really looking forward to that match. As I mentioned earlier in this video, I'm really looking forward to that Hell in a Cell match. Hopefully it does itself justice, and hopefully Bray Wyatt picks up the big win. In fact, I'd like to see Wyatt win and then progress into a feud with Braun Strowman, because they've got so much history together, but I'm getting way too ahead of myself. Let's get on with the overall grade. Overall, this Raw gets a B grade. I actually thought it was a Raw of two halves. I wasn't too impressed with the first half of Raw. I thought it was a bit lackluster in places, but things really picked up in the second half of the show, especially with that fatal 5-way elimination match. That was excellent. And, The Fiend and Rollins, I'm really hyped for that too. What a season it's been. I cannot wait for the next season, for the season premiere next week. Next week, we've got to wait a week, as we always do. I don't understand this season thing at all. But thanks very much for watching, and let me know what you thought down below. Oh, I say that in the outro anyway. Why have I said it now? Thanks very much for watching, and let us know what you think in the comments section down below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you enjoy what we do, then please do check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Cultaholic, where you can pledge. And don't forget, of course, most importantly of all, to hit subscribe and to join us.